I protected my family from manipulation and hatred, but what happened in the end no one could have imagined. I never thought life could be so confusing at 17. That year, everything seemed to fall apart at once. My father, Hugo, always so firm, began to show weaknesses I'd never seen before. My mother, Regina, reappeared in our lives with the sole purpose of causing conflict. And my sisters, Bruna and Camilla, were lost between loyalties and resentments. I felt alone in the midst of a storm. That seemed to have originated within the home. The moment that changed everything was when I realized my mother had never truly changed. She came with promises of reconciliation, but with every step we took, she destabilized everything. Accusations, emotional blackmail, and an astonishing ability to turn the family against whomever she wanted. I realized, with a weight on my chest that seemed to crush my heart, that no one else could be the line of defense between her and the chaos she brought. It was then that I realized I needed to take on a role that wasn't mine, but someone else needed to fill, to care for my family, protect my father and my most vulnerable sisters, and ensure that everyone's lives weren't completely dominated by her poison. At the same time, I found myself confronted with my own teenage life, my feelings for Matthias, my doubts about the future, and the need to find some meaning amidst the chaos. All of this created a constant tension within me, a mixture of fear, anger, guilt, and determination that left me exhausted and, at times, desperate. My name is Elisa. I'm 22 years old today, and I still feel the echo of those years as if they were happening now. It was a time when everything seemed to demand more of me than I could offer. The stability of my family, the protection of my father, the pacification of my sisters, and the care of Sam, who was always by my side, even when he was the target of unfair accusations and family rumors. I felt like I was carrying a responsibility I didn't choose, but one that fate had thrust upon me, and with each passing day, it seemed my heart tightened, as if trying to shrink inside myself. I remember nights when I would cry hidden in my room, feeling the weight of the world on my shoulders, listening to the silence of the house and imagining how everything could fall apart in an instant. That moment of realizing I needed to act didn't come as a flash of heroism. It came as a brutal need to survive, emotionally, and ensure those I loved wouldn't be destroyed. It was painful to realize that, to protect my family, I would need to face my own fears and limits, and that this would require sacrifices that I could not yet measure. The first major shock came when I realized my mother didn't want dialogue, only control. I tried to communicate with Bruna and Camilla, but my every word seemed to fall into an abyss. Bruna quickly fell in line with my mother's lies and dramatizations, while Camilla, even, trying to be level-headed, lost between the fear of displeasing and the desire to be fair. And there, in the midst of this turmoil, Sam suffered unfairly. I saw his eyes fill with pain, his achievements being questioned, his patience being tested, and I felt helpless. It was a physical sensation, as if every fiber of my body was tense, ready to explode or collapse. I wanted to scream, but knew screaming would only fuel the chaos. I needed to think, plan, resist. At the same time, my heart ached for not being able to protect everyone at once. I would spend hours revisiting happy memories from my childhood, trying to cling to them like buoys in a rough sea. But reality always pulled me back down, reminding me that adulthood had arrived with strength and responsibilities I never asked for. The tension grew as my father, Hugo, despite all his love and care, began to feel vulnerable to Regina's manipulation. I could see in his gestures, in his stares into space and silent pauses, that he was trying to maintain his composure, but fear and guilt consumed him. It was a time when every family dinner, every casual conversation, felt like a minefield. I felt the weight of every decision, to speak or not, to intervene or observe, to protect or allow each person to learn in their own way. This constant pressure left me exhausted, with headaches, sleepless nights, and a constant feeling of alert. What kept me going were small moments. Matthias's smile, Sam's hug, the rare times Camilla would stand beside me. They were sparks of light in a scenario that often seemed dark and endless. But the turning point came unexpectedly. One day, after a fierce fight involving my mother, my sisters, and Sam, I felt such a deep emptiness that I thought giving up would be easier. I was about to give in, to let everyone make decisions for me, to allow fear to rule my life. It was at that moment that I looked at Matthias and realized something. He didn't need to be protected from me. but I needed to protect myself from the chaos that consumed me. And it was there, in the silence of a room that felt too cramped for all my thoughts, that I decided I could no longer live in constant reaction. I needed to take control, learn from my mistakes, build a strategy, and above all, believe that it was possible to create a safe space, even if the world outside was full of manipulation and injustice. At first, I didn't know where to begin. Every step seemed undermined by painful memories and old conflicts my mother would bring up. I remember often sitting on the bedroom floor, hugging my legs, trying to organize my thoughts, and realizing the weight of responsibility was physical. My shoulders ached, my head throbbed, and my stomach was constantly churning. I had to make decisions about things I never imagined I'd face at such a young age. How to protect Sam from Daniela's accusations, how to deal with Bruna's manipulations, how to support Camilla without suffocating her, and, most importantly, how to keep my father Hugo grounded without suffocating him. It was a period of trial and error, where every action seemed to bring unexpected consequences. I cried, I got frustrated, I argued with Matthias about what to do, and yet I kept going, because giving up would mean everyone around me would pay the price for my doubts, and I couldn't allow that. I quickly learned that protecting my family didn't mean being the perfect savior. I often made mistakes, misread situations, or reacted angrily, all of which only added to the tension. I remember once trying to defend Sam from an absurd accusation made by Daniela, and I ended up exposing myself in a way that almost made everything worse. My heart was pounding, my hands were shaking, and I felt the adrenaline of fear consume me. But paradoxically, it was at that moment that I realized something essential. There is no perfection in the fight for justice or love. What matters is intention and persistence. I learned to breathe deeply, observe before acting, and not give in to anger, even though it was tempting. Each small step forward became a silent victory, and each mistake, a lesson that strengthened me for the next challenge. It was during this process that I realized the importance of building true alliances. Rita, my father's partner, became a safe haven I didn't even know I needed. Her calm and positive presence, always ready to intervene without drama, helped me stay calm in times of crisis. Matthias was also crucial. He not only supported me emotionally, but also constantly reminded me that I wasn't alone. There were days when I felt on the verge of collapse, but his embrace, Sam's words of encouragement, and Camilla's confidence gave me the strength to carry on. I realized that even in turbulent seas, it's possible to find anchors that keep us grounded. The rebuilding process wasn't linear. There were days when I retreated, allowing Regina's manipulation to overwhelm me, and nights when I felt powerless to control anything. I remember entire sleepless nights, reliving arguments, tears streaming down my pillow, my body tense, my heart racing. The fear of losing my father, my sisters, or Sam consumed me. But there were also small moments that reminded me of the reason for it all. The smile of Sophia, the adopted baby who arrived to unite the family in a way I never imagined. She was living proof that there was still genuine love, hope, and the possibility of a new beginning. Caring for her taught me to channel my energy into something constructive, rather than simply reacting to the chaos. It was then that I began to understand the power of setting clear boundaries. I learned to say no to my mother without guilt, to protect my peace without feeling selfish, and to create a safe space for everyone around me. Every difficult conversation, every confrontation, was like building an invisible wall that protected us. I began to realize that, even if not everyone understood or agreed, my family needed this protection to survive emotionally. And with it came a new feeling: control over one's own life. It wasn't absolute control, but it was enough to begin rebuilding not only the family, but also myself. Sophia's arrival changed everything in ways I couldn't have imagined. From the first day we held her in our arms, I felt a mixture of fear and hope. She was small, fragile, but she had a presence that seemed to fill the empty corners of our home. I realized that part of my struggle wasn't just protecting the adults around me, but also ensuring that this new life was loved without conditions, without drama, without fear. Her every cry reminded me that the responsibility of caregiving could be exhausting, but also transformative. Caring for Sophia taught me patience, presence, and the need to place love above old resentments. My arms were tired, my back aching from carrying the baby, but there was something magical in knowing that every effort was worth it too. ensure she had a safe home. At the same time, the conflicts didn't disappear. Regina still tried to find cracks, Bruna still sided with her mother, and Daniela continued to level unfair accusations at Sam. There were days when I wanted to disappear, hide from the world, but I looked at Sophia and knew I couldn't give up. My thoughts were a constant battle, between the fear of failure, the anger I felt, and the need to remain calm. It was a time when I learned to take a deep breath before reacting, to observe before intervening, and to choose my battles carefully. Every decision became strategic, and little by little, I began to realize that my strength came not from not feeling fear, but from continuing despite it. Matthias was my anchor. He not only supported me, but also helped me see the moments when I was pushing myself too hard. I remember one afternoon when I collapsed on the couch, exhausted, while he offered me a hot coffee and simply held my hand. He didn't automatically say, "It will pass." He simply let me feel my pain, and then gently reminded me that I was doing the best I could. This kind of support made me realize that overcoming grief isn't solitary. We need people who hold us when we're about to fall, but who also let us find our own strength. It was in this balance that I began to rebuild my confidence and my ability to handle family conflicts without losing myself. I also learned to recognize the signs of manipulation before they hit me devastatingly. I began noting behavior patterns, mentally preparing myself for difficult conversations, and protecting Sam from unnecessary attacks. It was meticulous, often tiring work, but it began to yield results. I saw the difference when my mother tried to pressure me, and I was able to respond firmly, without yelling, without crying, simply by setting clear boundaries. Seeing Sam smile with relief, seeing Camilla more confident, and noticing Hugo calmer showed me that every effort truly mattered. Each victory, however small, seemed to give us a little more breathing room to face the next challenge. Little by little, I began to notice internal changes. It wasn't that the world had become less difficult. It was that I had become stronger. My fears still existed. My insecurities still surfaced. But I learned not to let them define my actions. Every challenge, every moment of near giving up became fuel to keep going. And above all, I realized that life could be rebuilt even after profound trauma. Seeing Sophia grow surrounded by love, seeing Sam finally breathe without unfair accusations, and realizing that my family was beginning to find balance gave me a sense of purpose I'd never experienced before. I still carried pain, but it no longer paralyzed me. It simply reminded me that surviving and protecting are daily acts of courage. The confrontations with my mother didn't diminish, but I learned to handle them differently. Before, I reacted emotionally, and this always ended up fueling the conflict. Now I took deep breaths, observed, and chose my words carefully. There was a clear physical sensation. My muscles relaxed a little, my racing heart slowed, and I felt like I didn't have to carry all the tension alone. This control didn't mean weakness, but strength. I realized that setting boundaries was more powerful than any heated argument. At the same time, my days were still filled with adrenaline, sleepless nights, and thoughts that swirled endlessly. But I began to feel more capable of handling them. Each time I managed to remain calm in the face of manipulation or emotional attack, I felt like a small victory had been won. With Hugo, my father, the relationship began to transform as well. He was still overprotective, but he began to trust my decisions more and realized that I didn't need to be a child to protect the family. I remember times when we sat together at the table, discussing strategies for dealing with my mother and Daniela, and I felt proud to realize that he saw me as a partner, not just a daughter who needed to be cared for. These moments taught me that family bonds are strengthened when there is mutual trust, not just fear or obligation. I began to feel that, despite everything we'd been through, there was still room to rebuild relationships in a healthy and genuine way. Caring for Sophia continued to be transformative. Her every gesture reminded me of what truly mattered: love, presence, and security. I began to notice my patience increasing, my impulsive reactions decreasing, and my outlook on life changing. Before, I was focused solely on surviving conflicts and protecting everyone. Now, I could also find joy in the small moments. A smile from the baby, a hug from Sam, a look of recognition from Camilla or Hugo. These small details gave me strength I never knew I possessed, reminding me that even amidst pain and tension, there was beauty and a reason to keep going. Matthias became an essential ally at every step. He not only helped me with practical decisions, but also constantly reminded me that my emotional health was important. I remember days when I felt exhausted, almost giving up, and he simply listened to me without judgment, letting me vent my frustrations and fears. It was in this safe space that I began to realize that facing challenges doesn't mean carrying everything alone. It means knowing when to ask for help and trusting those by your side. This partnership taught me that true love is also about shared strength, not just romantic feelings. The journey of rebuilding was full of mistakes and successes. There were days when I doubted myself, moments when my mother's manipulation nearly shook me completely, and situations where my own insecurities made me hesitate. But little by little, each step strengthened me. I learned that overcoming grief isn't a single moment of victory, but an ongoing process of choices, boundaries, forgiveness, and persistence. Seeing my family reorganize, seeing Sam calmer, seeing Camilla and Bruna find small ways to find balance, and feeling Hugo confident again, all of this showed me that, even after years of pain and conflict, it was still possible to create a safe space, full of affection and hope. Looking back today, I realize how much I've grown and how much my life has changed since those days of constant chaos and fear. I still feel the scars. I still wake up some nights wondering how I could have done things differently, but the difference is that now I know the pain doesn't define me. It's part of me, but it doesn't paralyze me. We've managed to create an environment where Sophia grows up surrounded by genuine love, where Sam can be recognized for who he truly is, and where Hugo finds peace with Rita without feeling like he has to fight ghosts from the past alone. It's a physical and emotional sense of relief, a mixture of gratitude and serenity I never imagined I'd feel so intensely. With my mother, there are still clear boundaries. It's not a perfect relationship, and it probably never will be, but I've learned that not every conflict needs to be overcome dramatically. Choosing my battles, maintaining my integrity, and protecting my family have become more important than proving any point. Bruna and Camilla have also grown along with me in this process. Bruna still acts out, but she's beginning to see the consequences, and Camilla has become more assertive and confident in her choices. What was once a constant, tension has become a viable coexistence. And this has taught me that overcoming adversity doesn't require perfection, just persistence. I learned to appreciate the small moments that once seemed insignificant. A quiet family dinner, a shared laugh, a look of recognition between us, or Sophia's hug when she feels safe. These details became pillars of what we built together. I discovered that rebuilding isn't about erasing the past, but learning to live with it, transforming pain into learning and anger into energy to protect what truly matters. Every physical sensation, a lighter heart, a less tense body, less burdened shoulders, is a reminder that resilience manifests itself in everyday life, in every conscious choice to move forward. My story didn't end when the chaos ceased, and perhaps it never will. There are still difficult days, old conflicts that resurface, and memories that hurt. But I've learned that overcoming pain isn't the absence of pain, but the ability to continue despite it. It's waking up and choosing to fight for love, family, and your own happiness every day. Today, I can look back on my journey and feel proud of myself, knowing that every tear, every frustration, and every fear I faced brought me here, stronger and more aware of what truly matters. If there's one thing I want everyone reading this to understand, it's that life can be incredibly difficult, but there's always room to start over. Even when all seems lost, it's possible to find small lights that guide us out of the chaos. Every act of care, every word of support, every gesture of true love builds a foundation that no one else can destroy. My family isn't perfect yet, nor am I, but we've managed to create something real and solid, and that's already a huge victory. For anyone struggling, know this: there is a path, there is hope, and there is strength within you that you may not even realize yet. Just choose to believe, persist, and care for those who matter, starting with yourself.